So just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that. Please keep your phones or devices on mute. I like the sound of my own voice, but not when I'm trying to present and hear it at the same time too. And lastly, we also have a chat window available feature for this as well. So if you have any questions or any thoughts or comments, please feel free to share them in the chat, and somebody from the MedServ team will be able to at least take note of them, and we can address them at the end of the session, or we can get back to you after the session is done. Okay, great. Well, thanks for everybody's patience. This is the first time we're doing something like this, so I'm excited, and also ask for your patience as well. The weather's been up and down here, and so my voice is also not the greatest, and so I'm probably drinking a lot of water as we go through. But I'm really thankful for everybody that took the time to come out and join for this session today. My name is Mohit Chaudhary. I'm part of the service operations team at MedServ Marketplace. I had the opportunity to attend a 2-week dental boot camp at the College of Biomedical Equipment Training and Technology, and today I want to give you a practical high-level introduction to how dental clinics work from a technician's perspective. So today's goal isn't necessarily to make anybody an expert overnight, but instead I'd like to at least have the objective of giving you a working mental map of what a dental practice is, and sort of the major systems inside of it and where service opportunities exist. We've all been to dental offices, we've seen our dentists, or hopefully do see our dentists at least once a year, but there's a lot that goes on the backside that helps to keep it operating, keep patients in the proper treatment care that they need and deserve. We at MedServ are seeing a growing demand for dental support. And so we want to demonstrate that those with the experience in with biomedical equipment, facility support, field service, or even any sort of like electromechanical troubleshooting, we want to kind of instill in them and give them the confidence to let them know that they're closer to being dental ready or dental, being more supported, being capable of handling dental challenges than you may already think so too. In this session, we'll be covering, this is a bit of an outline, we'll be covering a little bit about MedServ. We'll talk a little bit about MedServ and what our mission is here. And then we'll talk about the dental industry and the vital role technicians play in it, how the dental clinic is physically laid out, and sort of the different infrastructural lifelines that every single office relies on, where each of the different pieces of equipment that are in each of those aspects. And then we'll talk a little bit more back again on MedServ, its operations, a little bit on my day-to-day when I go out on a call or handle opportunities or service requests. We'll talk about some learning opportunities as well. This is a nice little precursor, a little taste of what dental training can look like. We have some options available for you guys to take advantage of. And then lastly, we'll go into some questions and answers or any other kind of concerns or thoughts you guys may have. So let's get into it. So as some of you here are already familiar with MedServ, MedServ connects healthcare providers with qualified biomedical technicians to keep equipment operational. This work can range from preventative maintenance, safety testing, troubleshooting, and repairs. The reason this is of value for technicians like yourself is because it creates opportunities for technicians to put in or do short-term or project-based work, allowing you to grow your areas of expertise or reinforce your areas of expertise at a pace that's acceptable to you, and it affords you the flexibility in choosing the jobs or work you are interested in. By working with MedServ, you're not necessarily a full-time guaranteed employment. It's more of an independent contractor. So you have that authority, you have that autonomy to choose the gigs or projects you want to engage on. A little bit about myself and how I've made my way out here into this webinar. My name, again, Mohit Chaudhary. I'm based in Austin, Texas. Been here for about 9 years now. I studied biomedical engineering at Rutgers University. And upon entering into the workforce, I started off as a field service engineer and a consultant in the 3D printing space. I was out there working on machines, working on systems, and as well as advising on how to utilize them for their productivity or capabilities. But what I gained from that was an experience to understand what customer success really means, reflecting on the quality work, technical documentation, building customer relationships, and delivering on reliability. Since then, I've been lucky to join the MedServ team almost about 6 months now. And they have been able to bring that knowledge and experience to help bolster the service operations. I've had the privilege of getting to know some of you on this call. And to be honest, I look forward to you getting to know more of you as time progresses too. So please reach out and keep in touch. Ironically, I didn't have any direct medical equipment experience when I first joined, but with the support and guidance and curiosity of what MedServ offers, I've been able to find myself confidently going out into the field to help with service requests. I understand the components may be different, the environment was definitely different, but I feel in me as well as in the heart of most technicians, there's something that drives us to understand how things work, how to solve a problem. Troubleshooting is one of our core characteristics, I feel, problem solving. And so I want to use this webinar, this session, as an opportunity to help expand your spark as well, and kind of talk about the approachability of servicing dental equipment. So as I mentioned before, MedServ is noticing that there has been an uptick in service requests for dental clinics. Overall, there's nearly 180,000 dental practices in the U.S. This screenshot I have right here is just of downtown Austin, and then this is a 10-mile radius essentially. And in that, there are about 20 practices in this area. It's highly dense. There's a high density of dental clinics in most territories. Interestingly, though, with each of these clinics, most practices don't have their own engineer or technician on staff to support the equipment. Frankly, sometimes they feel that they just don't think it's practical to have somebody on board. And then they will only call for support or help when something isn't behaving as expected. They will run a system into the ground, and only then will they think to pick up a phone or write an email to send out for ask for help. But when that machine does break down, it puts a significant strain on the business operation. If you're familiar or not familiar, most dentists, they purchase and own their own equipment and usually only have one of each. Unlike a hospital or a healthcare system where the facility is run and maintained by a team and there are multiple redundancies in equipment, in a dental office, if a chair is broken or if a high-speed handpiece burr isn't spinning, that means that the patient can't be seen. And that impacts the patient care as well as the office revenue. And that's probably something you'll hear me repeat a lot as we go through some of these slides, because in dental and dentistry, rather, the productivity is the lifeblood of a successful clinic. Downtime means lost revenue. As a result, the need for preventive maintenance scheduling is paramount for a dentist's office, and something we're trying to work on building a better relationships with clinics and practitioners in order to reinforce this idea that the goal is to be ahead of the curve to prevent potential breaks and hiccups before they actually happen. If you take care of your machines will take care of you. As a BMET professional, dental can feel like a foreign territory, but it's understandable though. But I can say that dental equipment is one of the easiest and new equipment categories for technicians to start servicing when they're looking to expand beyond their current specialties. In other words, it's a low barrier way to grow skills and income opportunities without needing deep OEM training first. In the end, at its core, in the end, the engineering and mechanical concepts are the same, as other medical devices. It's just in a different sort of setting. The wide variety of applications in a singular setting can range from motors to plumbing to pressure sensors, imaging, lighting, sterilization, and more. So let's get started. I feel the best way sometimes to talk about the different pieces of equipment in a dental practice is just by going through the clinic itself, walking through each of the different areas and understanding where each piece lies. As technicians, understanding where the equipment lives and why it's placed there helps us troubleshoot faster and resolve the issues quicker. A dental clinic typically is not laid out randomly. It's designed around patient flow, infection control, and utilities. So we have different areas as the operatories, the sterilization center, mechanical utility room, and as well as the admin area. So first we're going to explore the operatory. This is probably the one aspect that most people are familiar with. This is where the primary treatment of a patient is and where all the dental procedures actually happen. It's the functional equivalent of like a patient treatment bay in a clinic or exam room in an outpatient care. For a technician's perspective, it's the point where multiple utility systems converge to support clinical work. And so why does that matter to technicians? The operatory is where the air, water, vacuum, electrical, mechanical systems converge together to support patient treatment. And that makes it the most common starting point for where dental service work starts. So operatories are where service calls originate from, because depending on the compressed air, suction, water, electrical, all these different systems, if something is failing at that point, that's where you'll hear the initial complaint from. The operators that are using those equipment, that's when they're going to notice something is off. But typically, if there's any sort of failure at that point, there usually means that there's something upstream that is failing or not working out properly, and that's why the operatory itself stops functioning. Typical pieces of equipment in the operatory include the dental chair itself, the delivery unit, which have the hand pieces, the different tools that they use during the procedures, the lights, which are similar to surgical lights. There's suction lines with vacuum units that are used to remove or evacuate different materials from the cleaning processes. There's interfaces for controls, switches, pedals, as well as displays. And these are all connected to a centralized infrastructure somewhere else in the clinic itself. So that operatories are the endpoints of the utility system. They don't really generate the problems typically in those areas, but they expose where the problems can be coming from. For example, like a weak handpiece, if it's not turning properly, you have to check the regulator on that possibly. If on the pressure on the compressor, and so that leads you somewhere upstream to look at the compressor. If you have poor suction, you want to check either the amalgam separator or check the vacuum pump. For wet instruments, you want to either check the air lines or make sure you have the right water pressure coming out. This sort of mindset of what you're looking at isn't necessarily the actual end problem, is a good strategy in avoiding misdiagnosis dramatically. And we'll go into all these different sort of topics and areas later in the presentation. And so as this becomes the entry point for most technicians as they come in, this is where we hear a lot of the complaints. And so one of the biggest initial ones is the dental chair itself. This is the foundation for the operatory. It's where the patient actually sits down, and that's actually where all the procedures happen too. As a chair, this primary function is to be what it does. It's supposed to be able to contain you, hold the patient, and it's supposed to be adjustable. As you can recall, being in a dental chair, they put you back or put you up in different angles to make sure they get the right angle and right approach for what they're trying to do. This motion is typically controlled by a means of hydraulic or some sort of electromechanical. And so there are a lot of switches and actuators involved in this process. that have typical failure points in them. Usually, it's also utilized, the chair is utilized as the way to distribute the air, water, vacuum, and electrical to a lot of the attached devices too. Most of the time, it's usually more of a component than it is like a PCB board or a motor controller that's failing on the chair itself. So it ends up being a lot easier to fix and repair than what it initially may appear to be. This is a sort of like a diagram of an outline of what the chair hydraulics look like. You can draw parallels for what an electrical system would be as well. Instead of a cylinder, it would be an actuator. But the hydraulic pump or the reservoir, they supply the pressure to the chair to kind of drive the lifting, tilting, and movement of the different positions. And so some common issues typically happen when you have a weak pump or a weak motor, to draw an electrical analogy. And so with that, you'll notice there's slow that sometimes you'll see that there sometimes the weakness can be associated with the pump or the motor not getting enough electrical power. Sometimes you'll notice that there's the seat is not able to hold its position rigidly, and that typically is a wear and tear sort of concept where the cylinder is not able to retain the pressure properly, or there's O-rings or some sort of valve that's not working properly. In addition to the chair itself, another unit on the in the operatory that typically have some common issues is the delivery unit itself. You can either have them typically attached to the delivery to the patient chair, as can be seen, or there's a separate portable unit that's available. So this is essentially the control hub for most of the clinical tools that are used there. It regulates and routes compressed air, treatment water, as well as vacuum suction. So most of the time, these issues typically involve a pressure regulator, valve, or tubing, some sort of blockage or leak, or some sort of signal control where it's a pedal or a switch that's not responding in the right way. So when you're in this sort of space or encountering this kind of challenge, you are able to kind of put some of the problems into certain buckets where if there's no movement nor output, it typically is a control issue. Or if there's slow movement or weak performance, it's an issue with pressure or flow. If there's a drift or unintended movement, that's an issue with maybe a leakage in the hydraulic fluid, or the actual limit switch on the electromotor component isn't working properly. Intermittent behavior, sometimes things will turn on and off. That's a connection issue typically. And so these are all different sorts of problems that you have most likely encountered while working on medical equipment. And in the dental field, it's not as much different either. Moving from the operatory, we're going to shift over to this little corner of the office known as the sterilization center. This is where instruments are cleaned, disinfected, sterilized, and staged for reuse between patients. As you guys are familiar with sterilization in hospital environments, it is the infection control hub that keeps operatories or keeps operations in general running safely and continuously. So if the sterilization process isn't being implemented or working properly, that will either stop or slow down procedures dramatically. The turnover instruments, typically in offices, there are only a set number of instruments available. And so if the turnover and having readily clean instruments are slow, then that means that the clinic can run risk of backing up schedules, slowing down. And again, productivity is keystone for a dental clinic. So even one sterilizer failure can affect the entire practice. Usually this sterilization center has multiple pieces of equipment. They'll have some sort of tabletop autoclave. There'll be an ultrasonic cleaner, some sort of disinfector or instrument washer, water distiller for clean water supply, a packaging or sealing unit typically as you clean tools, you want to make sure they're encapsulated in a sterile environment or a sterile package, so that then when they are ready to be used, you can actually just pull it out of the storage and put them to work. And then cabinets for storage as well too. Some of the common issues here you can already notice or have seen some on some of the larger equipment possibly you've worked on, has to do with components here. The door gasket is a frequent one for the autoclave. If you aren't able to hold the pressure right, then it's not going to be operating at its full capacity. Drainage or fill faults. Sometimes the plumbing or the water flow is not proper. There's a kink in the tube or there's a clog somewhere, so that has to be investigated. A lot of these issues that encounter in the sterilization center itself have to do with improper PM execution. I think with these systems, as long as they're checked regularly, as long as they're tested, validated, and make sure that all the different components work properly, it's easy to see where you can see why things fail when they do. Looking a little bit closer into probably one of the most important pieces of equipment they have in the sterilization center is the autoclave. This uses a combination of heat, pressure, and steam to eliminate microorganisms from dental instruments between patients. So typically a lot of the time most of the failures typically occur when it's filling up with the steam, the air and heat combination, or when it's trying to empty it out and dry out the removal of that moisture. So again, these issues typically happen from worn gaskets, clogged drains, the heating element itself isn't working properly. Some of the sensors as well are not can throw off errors. Most of these, as I said before, are maintenance related. They're typically not electronic. The PCB electronics are most likely the last place to really look or investigate into it before you can look into all the other aspects or even investigating as to when this machine was last PM'd. It's a question that a lot of staff and office managers fear to answer, but it's an important question to ask when you're in a clinic or facility. Moving on now to the utility room. The utility are also known as the mechanical room. This houses the centralized systems that support every operatory in the clinic. It's the infrastructure backbone of the dental office. And this is typically where a lot of the problems start from. And ironically enough, this is the one aspect in a dental clinic that is looked into the least. Typically, they install the equipment, they close the door, and then they turn the switches to power on and off from outside the room, and they rarely ever look inside there to see what's going on or check on it too. So, like as some of the issues I was mentioning earlier, if it's a weak handpiece, it typically is something to do with the compressor. If you have poor suction from your HVE, that also can be a restriction or something, or cloggage in the vacuum. If there's moisture coming out of an airline, if you have water coming out through the airline, through the air syringe, that means that your air dryer function is not working. So once failure here usually affects the entire clinic, and you'll notice it that if not only one operatory or one dental chair is experiencing this issue, if there's multiple, then you can usually summarize that to be that it's not those individual units that's having an issue. It's something that's leading back upstream to the actual core delivery utility. Sorry for a sec, excuse me. So in the utility room, there are 4 essential systems that are usually housed in here. You have your air system, your water system, your vacuum system, and your electrical system. So one thing, just to be clear, as technicians, we are typically only responsible for what's coming in and out of the walls, namely the equipment itself. Unless you help build the facility itself, if there's an issue with the plumbing or the electrical power, That's work that typically should be delegated to a certified professional that either installed it or servicing it. We typically want to address only the issues that have to do with the equipment that attaches to those fixtures itself. Just want to be clear, because sometimes people think that it's a plumbing issue, that they have to be the ones responsible for fixing it, when there are other professionals that actually are dressed for, more equipped, better equipped for that, handling those things. We are more equipped for solving the problems that are involving the actual pieces of equipment here, like the vacuum pump or the filtration or the air compressor. So the compressed air is essentially the muscle, the flex of the dental tools. It's what supports the hand pieces. That's air pressure is what keeps those turbines turning and spinning the burrs on those drills. It's what blows the air out of the syringes. It has used for controlling the valves in the delivery unit. So when you have controls for adjusting position or adjusting speeds on certain pieces of hand pieces, then that's what the air is supporting or kind of driving. The compressor typically is a medical grade air compressor, meaning that it is run oilless. It's not just some shop air or some compressor they bought from Harbor Freight. There are implementations for filters, like to eliminate moisture and oil contamination, so that it doesn't further damage pieces of equipment or hand pieces downstream. The water, similarly, is something that we are only responsible for what comes out from the wall and what goes into the wall itself. How it gets there is not under our cover, but we are responsible for how well the filters are performing. It's vital for the performance and longevity of valves, the heaters in the autoclaves, sensors, as well as just normal sterile kind of working environments as well too. Biofilm and hard water are two of the biggest hidden threats. In Austin here, hard water is a core issue. So you'll notice that a lot of clinics will have some sort of implementation to provide either distilled water, or they'll have some sort of kind of robust water softening implementation to ensure that they're doing the best they can to avoid any sort of mineral buildup that might occur in mineral or biofilm buildup in the piping or tubing. Vacuum systems, similarly, as you might be familiar, is the removal of waste. So you have your HVE, high volume evacuators, your saliva ejectors. These systems operate under negative pressure. So restrictions, leaks, or improper cleaning can lead to reduction in suction. Typically, there's a lot of traps with little meshes or nets to capture debris that, if they are not looked at or addressed, those will typically find their way back upstream into the tubing and plumbing, and that will cause a blockage or some sort of reduction in flow. So other checks and balances that need to be done, questions to be asked when you're on site to address making sure that the equipment is being taken care of, or at least looked after. The electrical systems, it's the foundation for everything. Most of the equipment and tools use some sort of electricity to either control it, drive it, or there is some sort of other kind of interaction for it. Dental chairs, they are used to power the actual control boards that then control the actuator, the pumps, or the actuators. For delivery units, power is coming into those systems to either control the flow for valves, or they're actually delivering light into the different hand pieces. Sterilizers, that's what's being used. Electricity is being used to heat the heating elements in the actual containers themselves to ensure that they're getting to a critical temperature to kill the microorganisms. So similarly, these are all different aspects as to if it's performing intermittently or you are seeing some deviation or loss in power on the end unit. It typically sometimes can be, you want to look into the electrical system to understand where that's coming from, if that's coming from there. But again, you're not responsible for going into the breaker box and making sure that all the fuses are properly there. You can go in and inspect, but if you notice something, it's usually your responsibility, or it's responsible to be sure to go and talk to the actual professional that installed that unit to have him come and address that. There are different kinds of compressors in the mechanical closet or the utility room. Typically, they're either these ones will deliver dry air, pressurized air consistently and regularly. Those are the kind of requirements for this system here. As long as you're getting good air and strong air, it's doing its work. A failure here typically can stop clinical work. And so a lot of time with working on these systems, it involves a PM where you're replacing filters. You are servicing the desiccant, the dryers for the air compressor, making sure that it's able to pull out all the moisture before it goes into the facility itself. A lot of times you'll notice some condensate will sometimes accumulate in tanks. So you want to make sure that those can be drained. These are all different checks that are done on a PM schedule. And so you'll hear complaints sometimes if these PMs aren't done regularly, that a handpiece feels weak, or the air sounds wet, or it sputters, or that the compressor itself is like turning on then off and then on again. That sort of repetitive behavior, these are usually delineating or lineating you towards the issue that there's something not working on the compressor itself. Vacuums, they create negative pressure, and they are usually implemented in two sort of means. There's a wet vacuum and a dry vacuum. A wet vacuum, as they may sound, uses water to create a negative pressure, and that requires water coming in from the facility to help create that pressure. So you'll have water coming in, and there'll be a turbine running and drawing it out. The dry vacuums create similar negative pressure, but use it without leveraging any sort of liquid. They're typically quieter. I think nowadays dry vacuums are a little bit more prominent in newer facilities, but that doesn't mean to say that you won't come across wet vacuums in a lot of older clinics. The one thing to note though is that this one system usually is supporting the entire facility itself. So you have multiple operatories that are relying on this one piece of equipment. And so if this doesn't perform properly, they're losing opportunity to work for work on different dental chairs downstream. And a lot of times some of the similarly said before, clog filters or traps are an issue. There's a separator maintenance that needs to be done. A lot of the waste, the debris that's pulled out from dental practices or dental procedures, they have some minerals or some sort of chemicals or elements in them that aren't safe to be introduced into the wastewater stream, and those have to be separated out separately. So maintenance on these sort of a piece of equipment are important, and you'll hear complaints of that the suction feels weak, or that the pump is louder than usual, or the system is running constantly. Those are indicating to you that there's a leak somewhere, or this it is not or that the power isn't getting, or the power isn't being delivered to the vacuum motor itself at the right rate in order for it to properly operate, or that there may be just some sort of cloggage or blockage in the piping itself too. As I was talking about the separator before, amalgam is a term that's used. Sometimes in routine dental care, sometimes there are bits and pieces that have mercury-containing amalgam in the particles from the suction, and that, before it enters the plumbing, has to be removed. This is more of an environmental compliance, and amalgam is not necessarily a concern nowadays in modern practices, but because of patients that have been treated for so much time, this has been more of a standard that's been implemented for dental practices. So something to be aware of, and to know that it's there in the system, and a very important thing to check to make sure that it is being serviced. Um, for the PM for this, replacement for this is pretty straightforward. You talk to the manufacturer, and they send you a canister that a new canister that is empty. And so essentially you take the filled canister, put it in the packaging that they sent the new canister in, and you install the new one and you mail it off, and it's simple as that. But if a dental clinic doesn't keep proper records or good sort of checks on when this operation or this procedure is happening, then they can lose track, and that's when issues can build up there. Lastly is the last area in the dental clinic that's of note and worth mentioning to technicians is the admin area. This is sort of the heart of the facility. It's the coordination center for scheduling, imaging, records, billing, and communication. It's the hub that keeps the patients, providers, and their equipment workflows all aligned and working together. Most importantly, though, is that this is also where the staff hangs out. Dental assistants and hygienists interact with the equipment all day, and they are the ones often that note the issues before they become service calls. And so you checking in with them, building a good rapport with them, gives you real-time system monitoring of how equipment is performing with like years of operational insight. They are the ones, the gatekeepers essentially, on a lot of the diagnostic and troubleshooting information you need before working on a piece of equipment or trying to troubleshoot what happened with it, because of the fact that they can identify when the issue started, whether it's getting worse or if it's intermittent. They can tell which operatories or which dental chairs or areas are being affected. It's only these two chairs, or it's this entire room. What triggers the problem itself. So they know what normal behavior is supposed to be. They have those expectations already. So they are the ones that can identify very quickly as to where the issues are rising, and that can help you with your troubleshooting. And so so they are the people that kind of ask all those troubleshooting questions too, when and help build those patterns of deviation in your mind so that you can point directly to the root causes then. Along with that, when you have these conversations, it's important to build that good rapport, because when they report problems earlier and you're able to address those problems as they arise, they are then more willing to share more observations about other things that are happening in the facility. And when you make recommendations, they're more likely to listen to what you have to say, and they are all more than supportive of you building more of a preventive maintenance schedule with them and the clinic itself. So with better communication, then it creates less breakdowns and more opportunities to keep things operational too. So that sort of summarizes a lot of the equipment that that's involved in the dental clinic itself. I know there's a lot that I kind of went through, and I'm always available to answer more questions if you have anything more follow-up later on. But I also wanted to share with you just quickly some other opportunities there are. As I shared earlier, this is just like a precursor for what can be learned. Uptime Services is one of our partners. They have a learning management portal where you can access presentations, trainings on multitudes of different sorts of equipment. And so there's access to training modules for majority of the equipment manufacturers, and they have a subscription fee of $25 a month. So you get a whole catalog of different pieces of equipment. I think it's a great resource, because as you start working in dental clinics, you start noticing different pieces of equipment, and you know the ones that are local to you. So if you take note, oh, they use that system there, or they use that system, that can give you a guiding point as to where I can go into the catalog to learn more about the machine, learn how it operates, learn how it needs to be maintained or serviced, so that you can then call back being like, oh, hey, when did this actually check happen? Or have you ever had this issue before? You can build that communication rapport to understand when there are opportunities for you to come in and help them stay online. Further, next is the College of Biomedical Equipment Technology. I just came back from their 2-week dental boot camp. It's 2 weeks working with a cohort of other similar-minded technicians. My group was about 7 people, and we had the opportunity to learn a lot of theory as to a much deeper dive into how all this equipment works, but also the hands-on part of working with this equipment. They actually have a facility there set up with multiple dental chairs, multiple delivery units, a whole bunch of sterilizers, and you get the chance to get your hands on dirty, get into there, change parts out, test things out, see how you feel about it. It's a really great experience. And I recommend it for anybody that's really interested in trying to grow their skill sets and opportunities for working in the dental field. There are scholarships available. That's something we can talk about offline if you have any interest in that. But yeah, I think the College of Biomedical Equipment Technology, CBET, I think that team there does a really great job. And importantly, they're also really helpful after the course as well too. I'm still having conversations with some of the instructors and people there, and they've been very supportive in helping me out in the field. There are other vendor and OEM training opportunities. A lot of times if you call a vendor and give them, say, hey, I'm working on this, or I want to learn about this, there are manuals and technical drawings available upon request. They're more than happy a lot of the time to share that information, because if their systems are operating out in the field, that makes them look good. It gives them a better reputation, and trust is a big thing in this industry, and it goes a long way. And so essentially when you're servicing and talking about how to keep things operational, if you're keeping it run right, the manufacturer wants to find ways to support you on that. Having said that, though, they actually host a lot of trainings at their own facilities, and it's free. Usually the cost to you typically is either just to get there and the board to staying there while you're there for the training. And there's different levels of, sometimes even the boarding or the food is covered as well too. So the different levels. So based on your interest and what you learn or are interested in, you can find different avenues there. We can, if you need some help or support, you can reach out. We can help guide you there. Lastly is the AMI conference in Denver that's coming up at the end of May. It's a great opportunity to network with other practitioners, other kind of technicians there too. And they also host several different free dental trainings there too. There's a discount code if you're interested in attending. I believe that gets you a pretty significant discount under the dental flag. So I'd recommend to check it out if you're in the area or if you're interested in making that travel. I want to kind of talk a little bit more about MedServ life, what a sort of day in the field is for me, how I handle problems, or how I sort of operational things that are undergoing. So usually we'll get a service request from the uptime service dispatch. They'll tell us that this clinic in this location is having an issue. And so we'll get the ticket, and from there we get the information as to what the piece of equipment is, where the location is, and some sort of complaint. Usually that's not enough information to really understand how to solve it. So I will typically call the customer just to get a firsthand experience as to what's going on. Calling ahead of time, you can introduce yourself, make yourself a little more familiar to them, and vice versa. And then you get an understanding of what the issue is. From there, you'll have an understanding and idea of what might need to be fixed. And so from there, we can build a quote. And this is usually an estimate we'll kind of generate based on the parts you think might be needed, the amount of time it'll take to fix the issue, and also how much time it'll take to travel there too. Travel is part of your time. It's part of the expense of being a technician. And so that's something to be considered as well. So keep that in mind, please. From there, usually with the quotes, we'll share that with the uptime team, and they'll formalize it and work out whatever contractual agreements they have with that customer and share with them that quote. If the customer approves it, then that's go time for you. You get the green flag, you go out to the site, and whenever you schedule your appointment, that's when you actually get to get on site and resolve the issue there. So you complete your work, customer's happy, you feel satisfied as well too, helping fix something, and then you're on your way. Typically, I'll try to follow up with the customer, making sure that the particular piece of equipment is working, the one I worked on, but also look at it as an opportunity to check in on other pieces of equipment and understand maybe there are other issues that they haven't shared or been so upfront, forthright about before that they might be willing to talk about now at that point. So while you're on site, it's an opportunity to kind of review and inquire what other equipment is being used. As I mentioned before, if you take note of what other equipment there, you can do your research later on to see how you can support them better. And also for you to inquire that when the actual service was done on those systems last, and if there are any other questions they might have. A lot of times out in the field, sometimes initially when I first started, I was, kind of a little bit lost sometimes, or at least a little bit overwhelmed. The work didn't go my way, and things would snowball. I fixed this one leak, this other leak popped up here, and kind of chasing things upstream sometimes, as it may be. I wanted to kind of share that MedServ as a team has a vast team of technicians that have varying levels of experience. And so we sort of insist, we request that you can keep an open level of communication with us as the job's going on, before you're going on site, when you have questions ahead of the time, while you're on site, while you're there, if you have any questions, or even afterwards too. That communication is vital for us because it ensures that the customer first is getting their problems resolved, but also your level of anxiety is being acknowledged, and it can be addressed, and that we can ensure that we're properly giving extra support, advice that's needed whenever it's appropriate. If remote support is needed, that's something we can work to arrange for. Have somebody, a little bit more senior technician, come on FaceTime with you while you're on site. You can show him on camera, and he could point out to you and direct you how to handle the issue and best feel comfortable. And with that, it's sort of like a digital apprenticeship where we're able to offer you the experience and the hands-on opportunity to build that muscle memory, but also have somebody a little bit behind you or on your shoulder to guide you and make sure you feel comfortable as you're working forward. So I think that sort of summarizes all I had to share. So I just want to thank you very much for your time. My email's there and my phone number is here, and there's also a QR code if you ever want to have the interest to schedule a follow-up meeting with me. I'm available to chat, talk. You can pick my brain on anything, and be as much of a help as I can to everybody. Let me find this chat window. There we go. So I want to thank everybody for their time, and actually, no, let me leave that up there still. Sorry about that. Raj, if you wanted to add anything, Raj is our fearless leader who's been driving this mission from the jump, and he's been a great resource and asset. And I'm only able to do a lot of the confident work I can now because of what he's helped me through.
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you everybody for joining the call today. Very happy to see the MedServ family up here joining under this training. Firstly, of course, Mohit, great presentation. I learned a lot, something which I was also not aware of. The entire mental model of how a particular setup works, from a operatory to a sterilization center to a utility room to an admin center. Like, it's a good visual, right? And so much more. Some questions are coming along, and we can definitely take more questions. We have another 10 minutes or less right now to answer anything, right? But the goal up here is to help the technicians who are part of the MedServ network to not only do dental, but dental is a good repeat opportunity. Is what Austin and Denver taught us, that once you get a good understanding of a particular site or a dental clinic, the opportunities keep repeating. And our cohort model, as Mohit was pointing out, we do have technicians who can be a backup. They can share their tools and test equipment as needed. And then if we need parts, we have Uptime who can help us with the OEM designated parts up here, right? So we see this formula working really well for us. And beyond dental, we of course do many other verticals like surgical lights, infusion pumps, doing the entire dental and veterinary we talked about, patient beds, and of course we do other planned maintenance and other opportunities like install as well, right? So again, just wanted to keep this open as a dialogue. We will do more of these as time progresses. We have been very fortunate to be now in 35 states with our technicians spread across the country, and as opportunities come, we'll expand beyond it as well. So open for any more questions you have. Questions about the training, we'll definitely share post this call. We'll also send a survey after this to ask for things we can change or add, and how frequently should we be doing these. And then, of course, if you find anybody else in your network who would like to join the network, it's pretty much where the more the network helps each other out, the larger it gets, the more opportunities we can also send your way. But Mohit, passing it back to you, I don't know if I missed anything or if there are any things you can add for the training specifically asked by Alexander up here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Raj. I think you covered a lot of it. Regarding the training, I don't know the schedule as to, I think the CBET website is the best resource to check where that, when they schedule it, because I think they try to organize it in a way that they have a critical mass of students together so that they can be as impactful or effective in delivering it. So that's something I will have to reach out or follow up with you on when at least the link as to where when they have it, or I can send an email to introduce you to one of the instructors and they can drive it from there. I think Raj had maybe briefly mentioned it or just quickly mentioned it, but veterinary is another space that also has been growing. And the delivery unit that's used in a dental clinic, the portable one, ironically enough, is the same one that's being used in veterinary clinics as well. They do a lot of dental procedures for dental cleaning for your pets, cats, pets, cats, dogs, horses, whatever else. But it's a wide variety, and it's the same sort of tools and same sort of equipment. So, and I've had a lot of, Austin's a great pet loving city, and there's a lot of clinics that actually do genuinely appreciate the support and outreach, because sometimes they don't even understand how fully that piece of equipment works. So we can be a great resource to keep them operational and do good for your community. Yeah, I think that's it. Any other questions, please feel free to shout out. I think we can kind of open it up for everybody, or drop them in the chat if you like to do as such. I will be sending out an email to follow up just to get some feedback. You guys have been a great cohort of guinea pigs for me. I appreciate your patience, and but I also want to improve this and help make this a little bit more refined or impactful for everyone. So if you could be honest with your feedback, let me know what things were interesting for you, what things were not interesting for you, or anything else that I think you think I might have left out. I really appreciate doing another version of this sometime soon.
Thank you.
Okay, so as we finally wrap up, we will send out a follow-up email with the slides, any other recordings which we have captured up here, and also your interest if you would like to do a dental in the next 30 to 60 days. Based on your experience, we can definitely pass it on your way in your city. So definitely that will also be in that survey. So keep a lookout for it. Always open for suggestions. So definitely send them our way. This is Mohit's email. Mine is very similar, viraj@medservmarketplace.com. We have Amber as well. Hers is amber@medservmarketplace.com. We are very passionate about what we see in the biomedical engineering world. We are all biomedical engineers. Once a biomedical engineer, always a biomedical engineer. So thanks for being part of this cohort, and we'll do great things together as the year progresses. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.